Accountability Act. Last December, Wells Fargo in my district laid off 400 workers, claiming it was due to technological advances. But I heard from dozens of laid-off employees who were directed to train their replacements overseas. And across the country, corporations are shipping jobs overseas, leaving American workers high and dry just to benefit their bottom line. But what's worse is that corporations aren't even required to disclose where they're laying off hardworking Americans by moving jobs overseas. Currently, when corporations submit their annual reports, they're only required to disclose the total number of employees, not where they're located. This makes it far too easy for companies to hide when they're laying off American workers and moving those jobs overseas. It also makes it easier for corporations to deceive the public about inaccurate job creation. If a company lays off 500 workers in Iowa and then hires 1,000 of them in India, their annual report would show that they added 500 jobs, when in reality, hardworking Iowans are left unemployed, wondering how they're going to pay their bills. Employees who lose their jobs due to overseas trade are eligible for Trade Adjustment Assistance, or TAA. This program provides laid-off American workers with support and training to find a new job. But workers are only eligible for this assistance if they can certify that their job has been outsourced, which can be very difficult if a company is lying about outsourcing. Far too often, companies are more concerned with protecting their public image than protecting workers and are reluctant to notify laid-off workers that their job has been outsourced. We've seen this happen time and time again. My bill, the Outsourcing Accountability Act, would simply require public companies to include in their annual report where their employees are located by state and country. This will disincentivize companies from outsourcing, and it will certainly disincentivize them from lying to employees and the public about it. If a company knows that information will be disclosed, they'll think twice about such unpopular action. Not only will this help disincentivize the practice of outsourcing and protect American jobs, but it will give investors and consumers the information they need to identify companies that are supporting American jobs. Now, I know some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have said this is too burdensome for companies. If a corporation isn't already tracking where in the world their employees are located, for God's sake, they've got bigger problems than this legislation. One of the most difficult things about trying to address outsourcing and offshoring is that it's so hard to get information about how many jobs it affects. This is a common-sense reporting bill that will increase transparency and accountability on a practice that's contributing to unemployment across this country, and it doesn't even cost the taxpayers a dime. I've heard from dozens of Iowans in my district who are looking at their expenses and wondering how they're going to get through the month. They're wondering this because they've been laid off by their employer who claimed technological advances, only to then train employees to replace them overseas. I urge my colleagues on the other side of the aisle to go back home to their districts and talk to their constituents who are struggling to pay their bills or put food on the table because their job has been shipped overseas. Go back home. Ask them if they elected you to fight for American jobs or multinational corporations. I urge a